Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, and welcome to another episode of Fanalysis, Avatar: The Last Airbender. I'm Callan, this is Matt.
Hello.
And this is Evan.
Hi, everyone.
Take us with the summary for the episode, Matt.
This is Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 3, Episode 9, Nightmares and Daydreams. We're done.
You're not going to summarize it? This extremely complex and detailed and excellent episode.
This one's a little more low key compared to last week, as I think a lot of people can tell already, and probably already know who have seen this.
Yes, Aang can't sleep. That is the plot. That's pretty much it. Okay. So he hallucinates. He it's called Nightmares and Daydreams, right? It's like, I look at it as a big, they're paying homage to the idea of like, okay, you've got like a big test tomorrow. You know what I mean? And you're stressing about exam time, or like kids can relate to that. It's like this inflated metaphor for something like that. It's one like step shy of being a true filler episode where because there's one important thing that happens related to like what Zuko is doing, but it's totally off camera. You know what I mean? And it doesn't get revisited until the finale. So it's really not an important episode. You could afford to skip it. I don't necessarily recommend that you skip any episodes of Avatar, but it's just one of the absolutely least important episodes you will ever find in the show. Not a terrible episode, but we're really scraping here. We don't have much to talk about.
I mean, like visually speaking,
that's it. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I will say, like, visually speaking, this episode does get pretty creative with what it does, because they're very specifically, when you have a concept like dreams just in general, it opens up the door for like a lot of like really creative imagery, because everyone has dreams, and anyone who's experienced dreams knows just how crazy that shit can get. So it does open the door for them just to go a little bit more wild than they normally would, and it does definitely lend this episode its own unique flair in that regard. Like, this is like, there are scenes in this episode that you will remember to some extent, at least from an artistic perspective.
It's
so I really appreciate
got that going for it.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that, and it is always kind of fun for just animators to just do their thing and let the animation just breathe and have them just be creative. And I think the fact that they even try to work plot into that in some ways is something commendable at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, it's not pure fluff. They are trying to get across the idea of the pressure.
Yes, it is.
They're trying to give it something. And I'll tell you this, as I forgot the most dramatic and kind of horror-esque style nightmare in the very center of the episode. I remembered all of the crazy stuff because that's what everyone remembers. Like you say, it's vivid.
I've probably forgotten what you're talking about. What do you
the kind of Eye of Sauron zooming into the fire palace, the Toph with no eyes, the Katara freezing over kind of thing. Like it does a lot of very visceral, quick.
This is not a joke. I don't know what he's talking about because I find this episode so forgettable.
Literally, I forgot about that. It's one of the only parts of the entire show that I hadn't remembered from previous watches. I mean, I remember pretty much all of this show by heart, and this came in. I thought, oh, this is quite cool. I don't remember this. It's funny because that's the best part of the episode for me, and yet it's overshadowed in terms of memorability by the crazy and the weird that they throwed in on top.
Yeah,
the anime references of Goku and Vash, and obviously the upper versus.
And by the way. Yeah. By the way, when Matt was mentioning earlier about like the stress of taking a test that kids tend to have, that's actually something that happens in this episode.
Yeah. Oh, you forgot your maths. It's a weird episode.
Giant abacus comes down and crushes. It's like,
so that's like this is another thing. I don't find it funny, and I'm not like mad at it for not being funny. But to me, it just went on. I know the episode is only like 22 or 23 minutes long. I felt like this is going on for like a fucking hour. Like, could we just be done with this stupid thing? Like
it is really relying on the one punchline of, oh, isn't this funny and quirky and weird? And I completely agree. It never made me laugh out loud. It was purely the memorability of the visuals of the stupid, not even the stupidity, because I don't want to insult it or anything. It's just. They spent a lot of money on some of the animation in this episode, and I was like, why would you spend it here? Why would you focus on anime styled Momo versus Appa, when you could have another amazing waterbending fight or firebending sequence at the end?
You know why? Because at the end of the day, I don't have that many complaints about this show in general. But like when I think about maybe do something more with May, who's in this episode. You know what I mean? Yeah, like because by the end of the show, her character is still kind of bland. Like for me, even though she does some cool things, but I would just give her more to do. And you think, where would we fit that in? Well, this episode, cut this,
Yeah.
and put something else.
She,
you know what I mean?
She is
Right.
the most impactful part of this episode outside of Zuko's meetings. She's present, trying. Once again, Zuko isn't happy. She tries to cheer him up. Zuko continues to be unhappy. She's trying her best to help him out, and it's just he's being him. So they could have spent more time dedicated on that. And the relationship as a whole.
Totally unrelated to what you just said, although I appreciate the point. Great point. But the one thing that I've been consistently forgetting to mention every time that we talk about this show this season is a small detail of the animation, and by no means something specific to this episode. But I appreciate that they have the exit wound on Aang's foot from when he got hit by the lightning.
Oh, yes.
Whenever he's barefoot, they show that. Like, he has the mark on his back and his foot. Yeah, it's just a really cool detail of the animation, and I forget to say it all the time. I've been meaning to bring it up since like the first.
It is really
episode.
cool. They do an excellent job of consistency in this season in particular. I mean, it's true of the whole show, but we said in the early episodes, there are kind of geographical beats where would they be in terms of travel time, etc. They hold true to that. They do pay attention to the internal kind of logical consistency of their world, and I appreciate that holds true even in the animation.
I have. This is another point. I'm like in my ongoing case against Painted Lady that they're so early.
Along with the scheduling, 4 days in advance.
Lady we're to waste any time. It's like we wasted so much time. The Runaway was wasting time. We told ghost stories around the campfire. We've wasted time, and we're way early, and now we're doing this. This is why this episode exists.
We can only assume that there have been like lightning speed days they've had to rush through in the previous non-covered travel times and episodes.
Yeah. Although
apparently Appa's a lot quicker than we thought.
Yeah.
Even though I don't find this especially funny, I don't find it annoying like that fucking idiot in Painted Lady, that idiot with the switching hats. I hate it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Doc. Yeah.
Also, another note I'd kind of forgotten is that this episode is the only episode Sokka builds Appa's armor. He builds it in a single episode. But I even realized that it had been referenced before it turns up. So at least they covered that.
Yeah, I didn't remember
I think it was referenced in Runaways, right?
Was it mentioned then? That. The idea of it was mentioned, like, I've got this cool idea for his armor, but
sure right.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
but he only started making it in this episode. But the fact they covered that at all, I appreciate, because again, it's not just magically appearing armor.
I did not remember that he built it. Like why would he? Wouldn't you give that job to Toph? But maybe she helped because of the metal.
Yeah.
Speaking of callbacks, we also learned that Sokka kept the beard that he had when Aang was at school pretending to be his dad. he puts it on to give Aang a therapy session.
I will say, like, this scene, I don't laugh at it, but I could see somebody. You know what I mean? It works on paper. It's a fine scene, for what is going on here. That's probably like the funniest bit, even though
it's true of the whole episode. It's meant for kids. This is the part of the show where it tilts in that younger viewer direction, and that's fair. It's a show designed to be in large part, almost entirely for kids. The family element only kind of comes in as the overarching quality level. The themes in the story and the characters and the jokes, that's all designed for the young audience, and this is fair enough for them. So it's just they could have done that while also bigging up May and the relationship with her and Zuko, and anything to do with the overarching importance of plot. The struggles of Stray.
I do appreciate how they. Oh, sorry, Matt.
This is not important. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I do appreciate how they were at least trying to touch on the idea of the fact that, just again, kind of like what I said in the previous episode about how war can destroy you, in the sense of because Aang is just so far removed from this war-torn world. Air nomad plus 100 years in hibernation. This is all so new to him, and the fact that he has to go, like Sokka says, go up against the big bad of the whole thing. It's a lot of pressure for someone in his position, and I do appreciate how they were able to touch on that somewhat in this episode. But granted, I mean, they've done that before, and they'll do it better in the future.
I think it's a great idea. That notion, I think, is the strongest part of that thing. It's just it's just, I don't know if I just wish they didn't make the whole episode that, and if they did, just have done something a little bit more impactful. But really, I would love for May have gotten more time. That's all.
The May more time thing, and that focusing on that idea of the strain and the pressure without it just being slapstick. If they'd had that be a dramatic.
Yeah, it's so silly.
Kind of,
so silly.
This didn't need to be silly. This could have been a really dramatic
like the end
episode.
of this episode. Like it's so funny to picture Mark Hamill coming in to scream about how he's missing his pants or whatever. You know what I mean? As Ozai. I mean, it's just such a weird. And before
the dude's
you really
played the
like
Joker.
meet
He's
Ozai,
done worse.
you know what I mean? it's so odd. 'Cause I know we've had like a couple scenes with Ozai up to this point, but it's like I don't know. That just kind of it never really played for me.
And he's riding a fire-breathing hippo with wings.
Yeah, and also I was going to appreciate you mentioned that. I was going to appreciate
What
the
was
fact
that?
that he didn't know what the Firelord looked like properly. And,
Yeah.
but then you see exactly
But
what
he
the
does.
Firelord looked like when it comes up later. So
I mean, he's
like,
seen
but he
pictures,
does,
right?
Because he's
seen images,
Yeah.
but just like the initial appearances, like, oh yeah, okay, he wouldn't know exactly how it meant
Yeah.
Yeah.
appear. So it was,
Plus, it's a dream, so it's like meant to be exaggerated.
exactly.
This is total like Avatar Spirit World hand wavy shit, because like in the first season, Roku's like, oh, he's coming and he's got the comet and he's showing him visions of stuff that hasn't even happened yet. You know what I mean? So it's like just magic. It is magic. Like a magical world.
Right.
So
I don't think Aang's really expecting Ozai to be 20 feet tall.
No, obviously it's just playing with the style. But yeah,
right.
But we've talked about this enough really, because I mean the Zuko and May thing, it's just Zuko and May. You know, everything we just said about them applies here in less extent.
I have one question, and this was going to bring up earlier. It's not important, but is this the episode? It's been a while since I watched it. Is it the episode where at one time Azula's getting her hair combed and like this crazy elaborate?
Yeah, that's
I kind of like that. That was fun. That was over the top and funny.
Cool visual, and I liked again the style of manipulation she's got going for Zuko. So it's like, Zuko, stop being such a baby. Just go to the meeting, and it's like while still also, kind of jabbing in the insult of, well, I was invited. Of course I was. It's just very classic background casual Azula.
And it kind of sets up that locale or that position she's in of being sort of prepped and pampered. That is like part of her. It's key to like her undoing later, where she's banishing everybody from the palace. It kind of sets all that up. And also, I think she's not wearing makeup in this scene either, which is the only other scene outside of that one where he confronts her in her bedroom in the first episode of this season, where she doesn't wear makeup. But and it's a cool look for her. I wish she kind of didn't have it. Usually, she looks awesome that way.
Even the room, like the entire shot, like, it's a very cool scene. And I mean, as of all things with the Fire Nation and the palace, it's very artfully executed. But that aside, it's what we've said. The episode is Nightmares and Daydreams. It's no one's favorite. It's it's an episode that exists and has some
harmless.
scenes.
I don't hate it, but it's just kind of there. It's just there.
It's better than Painted Lady.
And if you're a fan of surreal animation, it's worth at least looking at, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was truly it.
Yeah,
exactly.
We said far more about it than I thought we would. So
exactly. Yeah. I'm Callan. I still don't have an outro.
This is Matt. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.
Evan Nova 95. We hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you guys later.
Goodbye.